Hi everyone, welcome to History on Trial and Law on Trial. This is Dr. Tracy McCarthy. We're going to be revisiting William the Conqueror and his legal theories. And so we're going to be looking at William's idea that Tuesday is not only related to Jews' Day, but also translates to Judgment Day. This may also be the case for Thursday. We looked at some of this before and maybe you didn't make the observation, so that observation is going to be pointed out so that you can see where William was identifying Tuesday as multiple things, including a day of law. And so there was a focus for William on this idea of Doomsday and Judgment Day based upon his creation of the Doomsday Book and the creation of this law book that identifies Tuesday as Judgment Day or Judge Day or Day of Law. And what's also interesting is that this idea was incorporated into legal theory in the United States by incorporating this body of law. Just a couple of quick notes about William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror was understood as a Norman king, even though he was over England at one point. One of the things that is noteworthy about William is that he was crowned. His coronation was on Christmas Day of 1066 in Westminster Abbey. Additionally, William is thought to have approximately 1 million descendants and relatives currently around the globe, and particularly in the United States. As you may recall, William has the Domesday Book, also known as the Doomsday Book, and this is Britain's earliest public record. It's a land survey, and what happened was there was an identification of the landholders, that landed gentry. So there was a documentation of those names, and the expectation of the people whose names were in this Doomsday Book, there was the expectation that these people would hold title to and rights to this land up until the end of time, so the end of days. And so here you have the Doomsday Book, which is also related to the Day of Judgment. And so again, this is something that was prominent in terms of paradigms for William. Both legal paradigms and also religious paradigms came together with his idea of a Doomsday Book, and also his understanding of Tuesday as being a day of judgment. We're going to revisit this law dictionary that incorporates by reference the civil and other systems of foreign law. This is from the 1800s, and this also incorporates that law book from William the Conqueror in the 1700s. Some people may be thrown when they see a lot of religious reference in legal manuscripts. What's happening is an acknowledgement of the fact that the law in the United States in particular is law that comes from other sources, and the main original source of law in the United States would be considered church law or law coming out of Leviticus and Deuteronomy. And you can see the parallels when you look at some of the legal rules in the United States and then you look back at scripture and you see these similarities in terms of theories. And because of this incorporation, that might explain why the idea of Judgment Day or Doomsday would even be included in a law dictionary in the United States or even in Europe. So let's look at this entry again, and you can see there is this entry with JEU referring to a Jew, and then Tuesday also being Jews' Day. If you go down to that third line, you'll also notice something, and it is Juris Day, which is also Tuesday, and this is the Jurisdie. And juris generally means law, and so we're going to look at how this then translates to this idea of judgment or judging. If you're not familiar with this, when you see juris or jur, it basically relates to the law. So in this instance, when someone says they are a lawyer, they are basically saying they have a doctor of jurisprudence or a juris doctor. And so whenever you see that, always be on the lookout for understanding it in the context of law or being related to the law. And we're going to quickly look at this same dynamic going on in the laws of William the Conqueror. And again, this is 1779 based upon that translation of the Roman numerals. Okay, if you look at this again, you can see there is a repetition of this idea of justice and law inside of this discussion about JEU being the beginning of Tuesday. And so if you look up at the top, you see that jury or jury was justice of the Jews. It's interesting that William the Conqueror would even have such an entry in a law book, but this definitely speaks to what he thought was important to incorporate in their legal theories. And so you also see Jews again, not just meaning Jews as in people, but also meaning punishment and judgment. But you see the same spelling. So you see J-U-E-S meaning punishment or judgment, and you see J-U-E-S meaning Jews. And you also, if you look down at the bottom, at that last line, you see something that looks like an F. That's basically an S. And so you also see this idea of juris again. And so remember that middle one that's underlined there, that's Juris Day, which is basically Tuesday again. And if you look over to the right-hand side, you can also see this idea of J-U-G being related to a yoke and also judgment. Now this is interesting because we talked about this relationship between this word or these words and Jupiter. And interestingly, Jupiter is also related to the idea of justice or a divine type of justice. You also see this related to Thursday. And so this is interesting how this all comes together. But basically what William the Conqueror is asserting, and then by incorporation, is this idea that Tuesday is considered to have some religious significance, major religious significance, and perhaps also Thursday, but definitely Tuesday is considered a day of judgment, a day of law. And juris is also a word that's used to refer to a lawyer, also related to a judge. And here you can see other languages and how they are understanding this. So you see in the Yoruba, you even see an understanding of Jews Day. Of course, this asks the question of, do you mean Tuesday? So there is that recognition that this word is very similar or incorporated. And here when you see that juris again, you see in Galician that there is a recognition of it coming out to be jurisdiction, basically jurisdiction. Here you see additional recognitions of this word that you see in this law book for William the Conqueror and the United States. You see this is again related to justice. And when you do multiple translations between the Spanish and the Hebrew and the English, you come up with this word meaning Jurassic, again, that J-U-R. Continuing on, you even see this translated into Indonesian language, again, related to jurisdiction. The Irish also have understood these words or similar words to be related to the idea in English of jurisdiction. Usually jurisdiction is thought of as the power of an entity, usually the court, over a person, a thing, or an area of law. And you can see here that J-U-S and J-U-R are related to the Latin understanding of law. And then you can see translations into Latin and Old French, and sort of to speak the law is the understanding based upon this translation. And here's additional information about jurisdiction, basically the official power to make legal decisions and judgments, and also considered a system of law courts. Clearly, both William the Conqueror and the United States incorporated this idea of Doomsday and Judgment Day into both laws and legal theory. What's unclear is why. And so when we're looking at William the Conqueror and his thinking about Doomsday, because this is definitely a part of his paradigm, both his legal paradigm and apparently his religious paradigm. So he's really incorporating this idea of Doomsday and Judgment Day into the laws at that time. And then you have the United States bringing those in to the legal theory of the United States. And so just to get a clear sense of what William the Conqueror is thinking here, Doomsday is understood as a day when God is expected to judge the world, also known as the end times. This could also be understood as a day of final dissolution, or so just a day of importance in terms of making a decisive judgment. And so for whatever reason, the third day of the week, whether you're calling it Tuesday or something else, this is the understanding of it for William the Conqueror. And so it's also related to this idea of foreboding or predictions of impending calamity. And so this was what was on his mind, apparently, when he's creating this book also that speaks to the ownership of this land all the way until the end of time. And so you also see this dynamic related to Judgment Day. And so that also is incorporated in there. So Tuesday being a day of law, a day of judging, a day of deciding. And so you see Judgment Day also being related to the last judgment, the final judgment, and the final trial of all humankind. And so again, what's not clear is exactly why this was so important and that it was incorporated into the laws during that time, and why it was also incorporated into legal theory in the United States. But whether you're talking about Jupiter or you're talking about Tuesday, there is a tracing back to this idea of law and justice. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care. See you soon.